Good Friday afternoon, everybody. This is Stephen Ray, and I hope everybody's doing quite well. Everybody is, talking a lot about college football. There's some breaking news off the top of the show, and we're also going to be joined today by Peter Burns and Dave Neal on the Stingray Show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we get you guys ready for the Stingray Show.
The Dogs and Stingray are coming for you!
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn. Worst defense ever!
So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes.
Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings, he's got it. Jennings, he's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee! They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium! Are you kidding me? My God Almighty! What an epic way for the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry to end this game! What a play! Wow!
Welcome inside another exciting edition of the Stingray Show, everybody. I am your host, Stephen Ray, and let me go ahead and bring up my co-host, Heath. Heath, how's it going, my friend?
Happy Friday, Stephen. Hey, yeah. You sound like the Predator there for a little bit. You okay there in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, man, I'm fine. I apologize.
It's all right. Hey, Whip, work in progress, right?
Yes, that's right. All right. Well, we actually have a little bit of breaking news off the top of the show. Would you like to fill in the people with what's going on?
Yeah, it just got sent to me here a few minutes ago when we were getting ready on production. Let me pull it back up on my phone real quick.
While you pull that up, I'm also going to talk about this little nugget right here. Penn State coach James Franklin told a player not to talk to police following a fight with a star linebacker back in 2018. Incident that involved punching, choking, and a knife being pulled, according to documents obtained by ESPN.
Yeah, if you read the rest of that article, it just gets crazier. That's a really crazy situation going on in not so happy Valley.
Yes.
That's a crazy article to go read on ESPN. There's a lot of twists and turns in that story, and it doesn't look good for the fans of Penn State. Matt Zenitz on Twitter has talked about Mississippi State will be playing with less than 53 scholarship players available. That has not been confirmed yet. We're waiting on confirmation. He says sources, Mississippi State will have additional players unavailable for this game against Georgia following the latest round of COVID testing, but the game is still on and set to be played as of now. So Mississippi State and Georgia, it's on right now. It could be out due to COVID reasons. That's Matt Zenitz on Twitter.
Hopefully we can get all of those games in because Ole Miss and Texas A&M, they have been postponed due to COVID issues down at Aggieland.
Yeah. So, Stephen, I know it's kind of a running joke on the show. I don't like talking about COVID. I'm done with it. I'm tired of it. I'm not making light of it. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just done with it. I'm done talking about it. I'm done of Christmas parades being canceled. I'm done with football games being canceled. I'm done with crazy politicians wanting to tell you how to enjoy your Thanksgiving without any loved ones around. I'm done with all of it. I'm ready to talk about football.
Well, without further ado, let's go on ahead and bring in our very first guest on the Stingray Show today. Well, Heath, are you ready to bring in our very special guest for today?
Yes.
Randall, as time expires, lets it fly. Oh my goodness! Touchdown LSU! They win the game! They win the football game! The most shocking, improbable, unbelievable sequence of events. Here comes some pressure off the edge. They catch him in the blitz. Norwood down to the 20, to the 15. Darius Norwood, touchdown Mississippi State with 33 seconds left. Can you believe it?
Hey, man, it was great to watch those highlights. Thanks for pulling those up. I haven't seen those in a long time, so excited to be here. Thanks for doing that.
Yes, sir.
Dave, this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, you're calling the Georgia-Mississippi State game. Any fun stats you can throw at us while you're doing your research for the game this week?
Fun stats. I don't know. Both teams looking for a win in a bad way. Georgia's dropped 2 of their last 3, obviously, and played not very well against Florida. So, obviously, they are looking to get back on the field. And, you know, they had the week off last week, unexpectedly had the week off. Mississippi State, another team that's, had a week off, same thing. So, the point is, this has just been a crazy year. I don't know what to expect from Mississippi State. They told me they're going with the freshman quarterback again this week. We'll see how he plays against this Georgia defense that surprisingly hasn't been as good as we thought they'd be. So it'll be interesting. Let's hope it turns out to be competitive, as every announcer will tell you. Just give me a close game till halftime, and then we'll go from there.
Dave, if I'm not mistaken, your wife is an Ole Miss grad. Did she ever give you a hard time about any of the games that you've called over the years with Ole Miss involved?
She's learned to, that's probably not the best thing to do, but she did. That's how we met, though. A quick short story on that is we actually met. I was working at Fox Sports South back in late 90s, and she was the public relations director for AT&T Cable, which is now Comcast Cable, and we met at this party, and I was on a Thursday night, and I was getting ready to leave to go to Oxford, Mississippi the very next morning to do a football game on Saturday. And so she goes, I know you're going to do the Ole Miss game this weekend, and I just want you to know that I'm going to be watching the game. And if you say anything negative about my Rebels, I will hunt you down and I will kick your you-know-what. And I started chuckling, like, hey, that's funny. You're cute. And she's like, no, I'm dead serious. I will hunt you down. And then here we are 20-something years later, we're married. So, she threatened my life. But other than that, it's been great.
Do we need to call the spousal abuse hotline for you, Dave?
Yeah, well.
Blink twice if you need help.
It took a while for her to kind of calm down and realize that I don't have an impact on the outcome of a game. So once she figured that part out, we were good.
Well, let me just go ahead real quick and get your thoughts on the breaking news over the past weekend. What were your thoughts about the firing of Will Muschamp at South Carolina?
Listen, I think I'm not surprised anymore. I mean, let's face it. We're seeing coaches now that, get 2 years. Some don't even get – look at Willie Taggart at Florida State. They don't even get 2 years anymore. So – yeah, it's you're paid this amount of money, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8 million to win ball games, and when you don't, listen, your lifespan as a coach is not going to be very long. I love Will, known him for forever. You showed that highlight a minute ago of the LSU Kentucky game from Bluegrass Miracle. He was on that staff. I mean, that's how far back he and I go, even before then. But I hate it for him because he loves football so much. I don't hate it. He's not going to be looking for federal assistance anytime soon, right? Through the pandemic. But you hate it for him as a person. It's a tough deal. But I'm not surprised. And look, that's a good job. They've upgraded their facilities over the years to be some of the best in the conference. It's amazing what their football offices and practice facilities look like right now. I mean, seriously, among the best you'll find anywhere in a country. So they should find a coach that that wants to be there, and they certainly have everything they need to be successful. So we'll see how that plays out.
Well, how did you actually get started with broadcasting and get to Lincoln Financial and then JP Sports?
Actually, I'm part of a lucky club. Obviously, my dad's in the business, so I had a head start over some. He worked at Turner Sports for 35 years, calling you name the sport, from NFL to college football to basketball, NBA, and college, and I mean everything in between, right? So obviously that was a great start for me. And he did SEC football from 1984 to 1991 when TBS had the package. And then Jefferson Pilot took it over in 1992, I believe. But I worked local TV in Tallahassee right out of college. I went to Florida State. I worked there for 4 years as a sports reporter, then became an anchor. Came to Atlanta in 1993, and it was just a great time because the regional sports networks were just a couple of years old. And Fox Sports South, at the time it was called Sports South. And I did the Braves and Hawks pregame shows for a couple of years. And in 1995, and this is when it all kind of took off for me, in 1995, Fox Sports Net created an agreement with the SEC to produce men's and women's basketball, some Olympic sports, and to do an hour-long weekly show throughout the season. So for 9 months, every week I did a show, which got me to every campus. I got to meet all the coaches and the ADs and the players, and just got really in deep with this league. You know, I mean, just learning all about traditions and everything. And well, in 1998, Jefferson Pilot was I was doing basketball already and baseball and stuff, but that's when Jefferson Pilot was trying to replace Tim Brando, who left. They hired Bob Kessling for 1 year, who's the voice of Tennessee, and they needed somebody, and Bob wanted to go do Tennessee. So he left, and they needed me. And I just happened to be around, right? They're looking for somebody like me. They called and asked if I was interested, and I said, "Are you kidding me?" So I started doing games for Jefferson Pilot in 1998, and haven't looked back. It's morphed into what it is now. So it was Jefferson Pilot, then it was Lincoln Financial, then it was Raycom.
Yes.
And then ESPN bought all the stuff. And, you know, fortunately, and I mean, and I don't use that term loosely, very fortunate to have been asked to come along with that package. And that would have been in 2008 or 9, something like that. So I've been at ESPN ever since then. So it's been great, man. I mean, listen, the best people on the planet are in this conference. And I mean that. It's been a joy to go out and I get to see these people and engage with them and talk to them about their experiences with their school and their sports and their lives just in the community. And you learn about each one of these particular states and their cities. And it's been awesome, man. I just really am just so blessed to have been able to do this for so long.
Dave, your father, of course, is Bob Neal. And I remember those TBS games when I was a kid. But what's the one thing that your dad passed along to you, some advice, a few things that he said to you that you still use today?
Heath, I talk about it all the time when I go to talk to these schools and these colleges, high school kids and college kids, that there are really two things that stand out. And these are things he's ingrained in me, and that is preparation is first and foremost, right? No matter what you do in any job, but in particular with SEC football, because fans know so much about their teams, you better be prepared. You better be ready to go. And you don't have to know everything, but you better know the nuts and bolts of the university, the school, the traditions, the coaches, their history. So preparation to me is the first thing that comes to mind. The second thing is treat people like you'd want to be treated, right? And he's used examples to me. He's like, you know, the camera guys there, right? They're professionals. They're going to do the best job they can do. But when you learn their names and you know about their families and you spend weeks with them and you talk to them and you understand who they are, they're going to go a little bit above and beyond to make sure you look as good as you possibly can, right? And it's not hard to spend an extra 2-3 minutes getting to know somebody, right? It's not. And I get asked a lot of questions all the time, and you know what? I want to ask them questions. So those are really the two things to me that to him: preparation and treat people like you'd want to be treated. And I think that's something everybody can take with them, no matter what they're doing.
All right, let's go back to your broadcasting career. When you look back on your broadcasting career, what is game number one, your most exciting and most, most memorable game that you have called? What would that be?
Well, you showed the highlight. Obviously, it's the Bluegrass Miracle. I mean, that game is still talked about. I mean, even the coaches that were involved with that. Saw Coach Saban not too long ago, and something came up, and it just kind of took us back to that day. And he was talking about how he just felt like they got their butt kicked and should have never left there with a victory. And he was like, matter of fact, his post-game interview on that, he was talking to Dave Buzz Baker on the way out and says, my heart goes to those kids on the other side of the field because they should have won this game. I mean, wow. That's how he felt, but that was one of those moments, man, just like incredible, seeing the students hanging off the goalpost, trying to tear those things down after that game, and their team lost. Incredible. And there have been a bunch of them, man. Just, I go back to an Ole Miss Florida game when Tim Tebow was the quarterback, and Ole Miss went down to the swamp and ruined their season. Jevin Sneed was the quarterback at Ole Miss, and Houston Nutt was coaching them. Never saw that one coming, right? Those kind of things. Even a couple of Egg Bowls I've done. How about the one where Mississippi State was getting throttled? Ed Ogeron's last game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ole Miss is killing them.
Derek
and
Pegues.
they went for it, midfield, fourth down, didn't get it. Next thing you know, Mississippi State walks out of there with a win, and that was it for old Ed O and Ole Miss. So, I mean, there's just so I can sit here all day and talk to you about these games, but those are just a few that stick out.
And the Rebels punt it away. Justin Spark to the line drive to Pegues Fields. Derek Pegues in the open field. He will take it to the end zone. Touchdown Bulldogs.
Dave, I want to bring up that most Mississippi State fans, I'm a state grad, but anytime someone brings up the name Derek Pegues, your play call starts ringing in the background. David Pegues in the open field. Everyone says it over and over and over. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard people rattle that play call off. And hey, this is something that can make you smile. Your play call was better than Jack Crystal's call that day. And that's something that's hardly ever done talked about among state fans.
No, listen, I've never heard Jack's call of that, but I remember that punt return like it was incredible. I mean, it was that fourth quarter was surreal when you think about how it played out because Mississippi State couldn't get a first down. They weren't moving the ball at all. I mean, it was just awful offensively. But you had to walk out of there. I think it was 17-14 maybe was the score of that game. I can't remember exactly. I think that's what it was. But, there are speaking of Jack Crystal, there are great people in this league that you get to meet, right? Jack's one of those guys. But I'm going to tell you, it took a few years for me to crack that Jack Crystal code. I was the young guy on the block. Jack didn't know me from Adam. I kept trying to talk to him. I'll never forget, like there was one Mississippi State game, and it was not a good year. I can't remember if it was late in the Jackie era or if it was the beginning of the Sylvester Croom. I don't remember where it was, but it was awful. And I think Mississippi State got beat 28-0, 35-0. I'm walking out same time as Jack. We get on the elevator, and I just slapped Jack on the shoulder. I felt like we were buddies, man. And I said, we earned our money today. And he goes, earned your money today? Pal, I don't know who you think you are. I'm like, oh, my gosh. Now I got to get on the elevator with the guy, and he wants to fight me. Yeah.
Jack was.
Yeah, that's Jack. That's my guy, Jack.
Yeah, Jack was known to be a little crotchety there in the last few years.
Yeah.
Another play call while we're on Mississippi State, another play call. And no, I know you're a Florida State grad. I'm not trying to bring it up, but the Elijah McNamee walk-off home run there in the regional in Tallahassee, that was a wonderful call. And props to you for staying professional doing it because, hey, that's your alma mater. That's the team you watch and love.
It is it was tough watching Florida State, at that moment. But still, the moment itself, right? I mean, we're there as whether you're a fan or a broadcaster – You just that's why we play the game, right? For moments like that, right? And whether you're a Florida State fan or Mississippi State fan, the emotion of the loss or the emotion of the win, whatever it may be, that's why we love the game, right? And Elijah McNamee, I'd gotten to know him that year. I had a bunch of Mississippi State baseball games that year. And I'd gotten to know him and the story of that team. Were they even going to make it, through the coaching change right before the season?
Right.
and dealing with those guys and talking to them, and they were just awesome dudes. And Elijah was like at the head of the class in terms of the awesome dude guys, right? So for him to hit that home run was awesome. And listen, fast forward a year to last year in the regional in Starkville, and watching him hit the home run. Big Mac does it again, right?
Right.
And just the moment, the emotion of that game, and his last game in Starkville, again, just awesome. And I don't care who you root for. That's why we love the game, right?
Yeah.
That is just those moments, they stick with you forever.
Yeah. What is a moment or a situation that you just kind of look back, maybe not one of your moments that everyone talks about, but it was a wow moment for you personally, like, wow, I just got to witness that. I mean, I know the Bluegrass Miracle is the most famous one, as you mentioned earlier, but what's something like, wow, I got to see this. I got to witness this. I got to see it firsthand.
It's kind of, I do, a lot of people don't know this, and you might, but nobody really pays attention to it, but I've been able to do the SEC championship game on radio for the last 20-something years. And I work with a guy that I used to work with at Raycom, Dave Archer, who does Atlanta Falcons color work. And he and I have spent the last, I can't even know how years, 15 with him. But when I go do an SEC championship game, and I know Mississippi State's been there, but it's been a long time, right?
Right.
There's something about that venue, something about that event that's different than a national championship game, right? It's different than a playoff game. It's different in every way, right? Because the league, whether it's 12 teams or 14 teams, is a family, but it is a competitive family, right? Every coach will want to win a national championship, and they know the first step is you got to win an SEC championship. So the level of play, not every game's been great, but the level of play in that game, and to be a part of that, thinking about the Georgia-Alabama game with Aaron Murray was the quarterback at Georgia, to the last couple of years with Georgia and the Alabama showdown, the Florida-Alabama matchups when they were the 1 and 2 teams in the country. I could go on and on and on. But to me, those are the games that I sit there and they're full house, just pandemonium from 2 hours before kickoff, even all day, all weekend. Those are the games that I just walk out of there and I just say, man, I am so thankful to be a part of that, because that is why the SEC is what it is, the cream of the crop. It's the premier. And I wish every school could get there and do it. And, I know there are, Ole Miss is a school, they've been close, right? I mean, think about Hugh Freeze. If Arkansas doesn't have that Hail Mary 4th down pass, they're going to a championship game with Hugh Freeze 6 years ago, whatever it was.
Yes.
But that's your shot, right? I mean, Mississippi State, how long has it been since they've been in there, right? It's like, you don't going to get many of these. So anyway, I would say if there's anything that I take away, it's those type of moments that are just so special.
We've had other people on the show before, and we always ask them, so since you've been around the block more than once, give us a Steve Spurrier story. Give us a Coach Spurrier story that most people don't know.
Oh, my goodness. Well, here's Coach Spurrier is – it took – again, another guy it took a while to kind of crack Carolina.
Right.
He was all about coaches have shut it down, done all their work. He still, for a few hours, he's still looking at tape, right? What's the next great ball play I can create, right? So he would talk to us for a little bit, but you never felt comfortable. So he gets the South Carolina job, right, after his stint in the NFL, and he's kind of a little more laid back, and we start talking golf, and we know, we've known each other for a while, and he knows I love golf and love to play it, but he tells you he's better than he really is, by the way. He's a good player, but he'll make you think like he could be on the tour. Not so. But we did, Dave Archer and I, this was one of the last years of the Raycom, and we go, and we leave there, and he says, I take that back. It was Andre Ware. Take that back. It was been like 2009 or something like that. I'm working with Andre, and Andre is a scratch golfer. And we do the meetings, and we're short and quick because I'm just not afraid. I'm afraid he's going to like snap at us and throw something at us or something. So we get out of there, and I get a phone call. Phone rings, and it's a Columbia, South Carolina number, and I answer it, and it's Coach Spurrier. And I'm like, oh shit, excuse me for cussing, but what have I done? What have I done to piss off the head ball? That's my first thought is I said something that has irritated him. I mean, literally, like my heart dropped. Like, why is he calling me? Well, the reason he's calling me is he says, hey, Dave, listen, if you and Andre want to play golf, let me call the club. I'll get you guys set up. So I'm like, what? So we drive over, and I have my clubs, and Andre came through Atlanta. He had his clubs. And so I said, that'd be great. So head ball coach sets us up. This is the same guy that used to throw us out of his office, after 15 minutes, is now calling me, wanting to know if I want to play golf. So that's how our relationship went from that point on. Even when I see him today, we talk about golf. He asked if we're in the same place. I see him at Lake Oconee here just outside of Atlanta quite a bit. And he'll say, hey, you free? Want to go play some golf? So that is something like behind the scenes that people don't know about these guys, that how great he really is. And I didn't see that. And I don't think he was like that, right? I mean, early on. And as they get older, they get a little bit more friendly. And the same thing with Saban. He's gotten a little bit, I don't want to say softer, but friendlier to those of us in the media.
Well, going back over your broadcast career, who would you say would be the best player that you have ever witnessed play?
Oh, wow. Well, I will say this. It wasn't my broadcasting career, even though I think I caught him 1 year as a 21-year-old sports reporter in Tallahassee, but without a doubt, the best player I've ever had a chance to cover and interview and stuff and watch, Deion Sanders at Florida State at his prime. It was, guys, I'm telling you, man, you want to talk about a guy that changed the game, and you're thinking about a cornerback changing games, albeit a punt returner as well. It was nuts. Michigan State came to Tallahassee 1 year with Andre Rison, bad mood Rison against primetime. And, Florida State locked him down, and I say Florida State, I mean Deion Sanders. It was one-on-one. Deion called it out all week. I got him. I don't need help. And they went at it. I think they got into a couple little mini fights, and then they ended up getting in a fight in the NFL game. When Deion was at San Francisco and Andre Rison was playing for the Falcons, they literally got into a fist fight on a play that wasn't even – the Falcons ran the ball off to the right, and Andre Rison and Deion are off to the left, and they just – it's like a hockey fight, right? The back behind the play. But Deion was the guy to me that just was off the charts in terms of a difference maker. There have been some really, really good players in this league. And, you start thinking about Tua Tagovailoa. Obviously he's a fresh one, but he's a quarterback that was just as dynamic as anybody that I had seen. Tim Tebow was nuts how good he was. There are so many guys that have – and I couldn't even begin to go down the baseball list. Hell, half the guys I've covered are making $100 million in Major League Baseball now. You start thinking about the type of talent that comes through here. There are a bunch of those dudes, but the one guy that stands out to me is Deion Sanders.
Dave, let's take it back to golf for a second. You're playing in a foursome, you and three other guys. You got to pick a broadcast partner, a coach, and an athlete. Who's going to be on your team and why? Whether it be just for fun or trying to win it all. Who are you taking?
Ooh, that is Heath, I got to tell you, that's a great question because you have to pick. You can't just pick your favorite foursome, right? I got to be specific in a certain field. I would say this as a broadcaster. This is so selfish and boring, but I'd love to play with my dad. He's kind of going through some health issues and can't play golf anymore. He and I used to play a lot. So if I had a chance to go back and get him in the group and play some golf with him, he would be number one to me. From a coach, I think I'd love to play with Bear Bryant. I think if I could get him in a foursome. I never had a chance to meet him or be around him at all, but you talk to some of these guys. I've had a chance to be around Bill Curry in my life quite a bit, and to hear some of those stories, him tell these stories to me, it's like it may not be the most let's just say loose group if Bear Bryant's in the group, but the stories you might get from him would be incredible. And I would say as an athlete, put an athlete in there. That would be a good question. I think I'd want to play with Michael Jordan.
All right.
Yeah. I think, as a kid, I grew up, and when I say a kid, it was in the 80s and stuff, and my dad was doing NBA stuff, and I had a chance to kind of be around him a couple of times and just was enamored. I mean, the guy was larger than life. And I think I'd love to hang out with him as opposed to just say, hey, how you doing? I'd love to just be around him, just to see what he kind of brings to a group like that. So anyway, that would be it. My dad, Bear Bryant, and Michael Jordan. How about that? What do you think of that group?
That's pretty excellent. That's very nice.
Well, Dave, before we let you go, is there anything that you would like to plug or tell people how they can find you on social media?
Well, I'm kind of a quiet social media guy, and let me tell you why. Because no matter what no matter what I tweet, somebody in this league thinks I'm favoring some other school. I could send out a tweet wishing my wife a happy birthday, and somebody's going to be mad that I wished her a happy birthday. So I do tweet and I send out some messages to people when I usually reply. So, but I'm on Twitter. You can get me at Dave Neal Sports. I don't do a whole lot of Facebook or social Instagram stuff, but I just people out there watching, man. I just want you to know how much I appreciate everybody's friendship and their sincere comments and just being in this league and being around these people. It really is. I say it, I'm blessed, I'm fortunate. I don't even know what the word is anymore, but it's such a great environment. This league is special in itself. And it's just been a privilege to be a part of it. So, and listen, Stingray, man, kudos to you, my man, on getting healthy and doing everything the right way. I went through the same thing myself 2 or 3 years ago and got myself healthy, and it is not easy, man. And thumbs up to you, brother, and keep it up, because it ain't easy. I know, I lived it. So I'm proud of you, man. Way to go.
Thank you. All right, man. Well, we will be watching the Mississippi State versus Georgia game this weekend. And if we don't talk to you before then, hope you guys have a very happy Thanksgiving.
And Dave,
I appreciate it.
We'll definitely lift up your father in our prayers. I hope he has a great holiday season, and I hope you get to spend as much time with him here in the next few years.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much, Heath.
Right.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
And hopefully we can do it again soon.
Absolutely.
All right. And Heath, we want to thank Dave Neal for coming back on the show. It was quite wonderful.
Yes, Dave Neal and his, telling stories about his dad. I grew up watching Bob Neal on TBS and watching the original SEC Game of the Week. If you've never seen that intro or that opening, go to YouTube and look it up. But, Bob Neal called some great games over the years, and then Dave has followed in his footsteps. And Dave is the soundtrack of upsets in the SEC.
Yes.
Dave sometimes gets some bad games, but Dave is really, that's played into his favor massively.
Yes.
Games like the Bluegrass Miracle and, Jarius Norwood's run there to upset Florida. They got Ron Zook fired. Then, the Derek Pegues call that we were talking about, Derek Pegues, that ended Ed Orgeron's tenure at Ole Miss.
Right.
He's had some classic games to call. So it was always fun to have him there. And, and I have heard him on the radio doing the SEC championship games over the years. So it's always fun to have a guy like Dave on. And, he's the soundtrack for a generation. And I don't know if Dave realizes that, but he is. So many great moments happen. And Dave Neal, that's his voice bringing in the background when we look at those great moments.
Well, let's go on ahead now and bring in our other guest for today, Peter Burns, the guy from the SEC Network. We've had him on the show once before. Peter, welcome back to the Stingray Show. How are you?
I'm trying to get my camera set up right. It's not nearly as fancy as the backdrop that Dave Neal had. But you know what?
Yeah.
One day, if I can get as big as Dave Neal, I'll be in good shape. So,
Yes.
Stingray, Heath, how's it going, boys? We're tiptoeing closer to hopefully another somewhat full slate of football games here in the SEC.
Right.
So, Peter, where are you at right now, brother? You like you're maxing and relaxing. That's a nice little setup, brother.
So I'm normally in my studio, but then my wife, so I got a studio in the house, but then the wifey is in there right now taking a conference call, and then we've got the little kiddos sleeping. So I went over here to the master bedroom and kind of hanging out. So I'm just relaxing right now. And anytime you have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old at the house, you try to you take advantage of any time that you can just lay in bed for a minute. So I'm trying that right now because it's going to be a busy weekend.
Well, dude, let me just go on ahead and get your reaction to the story that broke this past weekend. What were your thoughts initially, and now that you've had time to think about it? Will Muschamp being canned at South Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough because I think, top to bottom, there's not a person that didn't work with Will Muschamp that didn't think that he was incredible, just a good leader of men. And we always, me and Chris Doring on our SiriusXM show say, hey, the group of leaders that South Carolina has between Frank Martin in basketball, Don Staley in women's hoops, and of course, Muschamp, where like they just had a bunch of really good people. Now, the problem is the nature of the beast in college football is you got to win games. And ultimately, that's what it came down to is, Will Muschamp wasn't winning enough games. And then, frankly, the defense, which was supposed to be his hallmark, really kind of, struggled late into this year. But I also go back and look at what Will was put in some tough spots as well, too.
Yes.
Yes.
Right after Florida, of course, he takes that job because it's a great gig. But he's coming on the heels of Urban Meyer, right? And couldn't even get, he had to have Charlie Weiss as his offensive coordinator. Then whenever he goes to South Carolina, it's coming on the heels of Spurrier's incredible success for a couple of years too, guys. So, both of the times he's following a legend, which does not make it a whole lot easier. But at the end of the day, you have to show some progress. It wasn't a Chad Morris situation where after a year this doesn't fit. You've thought, all right, you had 5 years, you had an opportunity. And I was a little surprised because I didn't think we'd see any real big coaching changes because of this pandemic and, economic shortfalls. But I think South Carolina, at least at some point, ran the numbers and go, all right, let's just count this up as part of our losses for the year. Let's, kind of reevaluate everything. And we got to start fresh. And ultimately, that's what Ray Tanner and their president did.
Quick question for you, Peter. We shockingly, we have a little bit of a following with Liberty fans. We've had Hugh Freeze on the show twice already, and so we have a lot of Liberty fans watching. And they're all scared to death that the Hugh Freeze sweepstakes has taken off, and of course South Carolina's drawing first. Have you heard any fun names or any fun rumors, I should say, at this point? I know they're all rumors right now, but have you heard anything fun dealing with South Carolina?
Listen, it's all fun because whenever you start getting into this coaching carousel, you're kind of thinking of what if this happens. And I think it's a unique situation because this is a year that, let's say if it was just a traditional year, Heath, you would have a situation in which, hey, you know what, maybe there's 3 or 4 different or 5 or 6 jobs opening. Where does South Carolina kind of fall in that pecking order? But because there's not going to be a lot of universities that are going to make this decision, South Carolina is going to be pretty much at the top of the heap, right? I mean, I don't even expect Michigan to make a move with Jim Harbaugh unless he gets a job in the NFL. And really, the same candidates that would work at South Carolina, I don't think work for Michigan and vice versa. So they're kind of fishing in the pond when nobody else is fishing, right?
Right.
So the question is who's going to be the right fit? Listen, I don't think that there's a doubt that Hugh Freeze is going to win football games wherever he goes. He's a hell of a football coach. He brings excitement to offense. He's a name that would, ESPN will run it on the bottom ticker, like, hey, this school hires Ole Miss or hires Hugh Freeze. That's what happened at Liberty, and that's what's going to happen wherever he goes eventually next. I'm just not sure if it's going to be the right fit for not only South Carolina, but even Hugh himself. I mean, people don't understand, and I guess your Liberty fans do. Liberty gives a situation where they pay really good money. They've got, okay facilities, and they have an opportunity to win. And so, that's a school that has some coin to it. So the quality of life right now is not as if Hugh has to jump back in and take a gig. Now, with that being said, I think that Hugh is itching to get back into the SEC and prove what he was able to do at Ole Miss. And kind of just knock off some of the rust. I mean, he's a competitor and he wants to be with the best of the best, and that's football here in this SEC. I do think that Billy Napier's name is probably going to be one of the front runners, along with actually Shane Beamer as well.
Really?
Frank Beamer's son, offensive coordinator, runs part of the offense over there with Lincoln Riley. But remember when South Carolina was on a run, a lot of it had to do with how good they had recruited, specifically inside the state. And Shane was a part of that. And, I'm sure Steve Sarkisian will get a look. I mean, they're going to be vetting out a bunch of different names. And I think you'll go with some type of offensive-minded coach. I don't see them, traditionally, if you had an offensive-minded coach, a lot of was a defensive-minded coach. So, could you guys not hear me for a little bit? I'm sorry.
Just a little bit, but you're good now. You're back. You're
okay,
good.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Talking about head coaching changes, this is outside the footprint of the SEC, but I want to get your thoughts on it. Where does college football and Michigan stand right now, in your opinion, with Jim Harbaugh?
Yeah, I think ultimately what it comes down to it with Harbaugh, Stingray, is that it's going to be just a marriage that kind of falls apart, where both the husband and wife just go, you know what, we had a couple of years, some good times, some bad times. Let's just chalk it up to like it wasn't the right fit. And, and it's not as if Harbaugh is a bad coach. He's not. Harbaugh, to me, is a very kind of quirky Mark Richt, in the fact that you're always going to have a really pretty solid program. You're going to do things for the most part the right way. But at the end of the day, is it elite? And it's tough to be elite when you look at what's happening with Ryan Day. And they need to take it kind of to that next level. And that's what Urban did there at Ohio State. And that's what Ryan Day's doing right now. And ultimately, I think that at some point, I don't think he'll get fired, because I don't think they want to pay the buyout. But I don't think that they'll be disappointed if the NFL comes calling and says, hey, you know what, Jim, here's my program, or here's my franchise. You took us to NFC championship games before when he was with the 49ers. Why don't you do it? And, I think that could be in the cards, as opposed to, paying a buyout in this pandemic for Michigan.
Right.
Peter, we have a name for Jim Harbaugh here on the show. It's Mr. Khaki Pants. So if you hear us refer to Mr. Khaki Pants, I just want to get you up to par.
Yeah, that fits. Again, and I do think that we do have a new Jim Harbaugh. And what I mean by that is, in college football, we're always looking for somebody that is going to kind of stir the pot a little bit, and always going to lead when I host College Football Live. And he's going to lead, whatever he says, people are going to pay attention. And I think Dan Mullen is starting to morph into that role over at Florida. I feel like Dan Mullen's the kind of guy that likes to mix it up a little bit, likes to be in the headlines. And again, I think that's part of this kind of comic book character that Mullen's starting to play over in Gainesville. And frankly, it's working. You think of all the years that Florida's been really good. Spurrier was a character on its own, and people loved him at Florida and hated him everywhere else. Urban was the same way. People loved him at Florida, hated him everywhere else. And I think Dan Mullen's morphing into that, man, if you're a Gator fan, you love Mullen. If you're not, you absolutely hate him.
Was it the Darth Vader suit that gave that away, Peter?
Yeah, a little bit. But you know what I mean? Mullen's the kind of guy that he wants to bring some fun back to football. And there was a while there that there wasn't a whole lot of fun in Florida football. Now it's explosive offense. He's stirring the pot, and now he has them knocking on the door of potentially a college football playoff, which is exactly the reason why Strickland ended up hiring him in Gainesville.
Well, let me just go ahead and move on from that question and expand it a little bit. I'm putting you on the spot here just for a second. If the SEC championship were played today, do you think Florida could potentially knock off Alabama?
Yeah, absolutely, Stingray. I mean, in fact, when I was looking at Florida, Georgia, I thought I had said it all week long that by far, no doubt, Florida would be a better matchup against Alabama for an opportunity for an upset, because Georgia is limited. I mean, I feel like football in 2020, especially when playing Alabama, it's the idea of, hey, can you go ahead and put up monster numbers? And we've seen Ken Seal starting to put up some numbers. I see that right now, but and I don't think Georgia can. I think Georgia has kind of an easy way, or they play great defense. But for Florida, it's a matter of, can you score with the Tide? And I think they can. And remember, going back to Alabama, Ole Miss, the only reason why Ole Miss lost that game was, frankly, they couldn't get a stop. And to me, Florida and Ole Miss's offense are very similar in the fact of how explosive they are. But Florida's defense is a little bit better. So Florida reminds me a lot of 2019 LSU. And the fact you got a breakout quarterback, an explosive offense, and I think they play just enough defense that they'll be in any single ball game coming up the rest of the year.
I'm glad you brought that up. Just enough defense. I am a massive Todd Grantham fan. And it looks like Todd Grantham has been superimposed this year. It's not a typical Todd Grantham shutdown defense. But you mentioned it. They make just enough plays. But what do you think's holding that Florida defense back this season?
Yeah, honestly, I think it was just a matter of just this season in general. I mean, you lost so much guy. You lost C.J. Henderson. You lost a bunch of other guys, especially Grenard and other guys on that front. I think it was a little bit of attrition to the NFL, and I think this year I just feel like all of the defense out of whack. Outside of Georgia, everybody feels, I don't know if it's just, there's this apathy towards paying defense. I can't really draw it up. I asked Matt Stinscombe about that on my show this morning, and he couldn't come up with an answer as well, too, of why the offenses are so far ahead of the defenses right now. But, again, I think that the collision course that we're going to see right now for Alabama and Florida in the SEC championship game is going to be awesome. And don't forget, A&M's still kind of in the hunt. That if they can win the run the table, which I think they will, they'll be 9-1, and potentially it could be the winner of the SEC championship game. And let's say that's Alabama, then A&M is next man up. What would be really intriguing is if Florida beats Alabama, and you've got Alabama with one loss, Florida with one loss, and A&M with one loss, you've got a really good trio of teams that could get in and do some damage.
Yeah.
Well, let's shift to another game this weekend. I was watching earlier on my phone. Dory Noka asked the question to Roman Harper and Stinchcombe about the Tennessee-Auburn game this weekend. In your opinion, do you feel like this is a critical must-win for Tennessee?
Yeah, I don't want to say must win because I don't think it's a situation where Jeremy Pruitt loses this game unless it's 63-0 that Jeremy, that Philip Fulmer, it says, hey, we're going to make a change at all. Especially remember, guys, he just got a contract extension not too long ago. But of course, I guess that doesn't matter in our world anymore. But it would be important for both of these squads, right? I mean, you look at what Auburn was able to do with LSU, and they absolutely boat raced them time and time again. And so you haven't been able to play in a couple of weeks. So if I'm Gus, it's important that I win as well to keep that momentum going. But yeah, I mean, for Tennessee, for Jeremy Pruitt's got to stop the bleeding, right? It's 4 straight losses, and it's by double digits. In fact, they've been playing football since 1891, and they've never lost 5 straight by double digits since 1891. That's amazing. And you got to at least show some fight here at the end of the year, and that's what I want to see if they're going to bring it. Now, I still think Auburn wins, and Auburn probably will win by double digits, but I don't think it's going to be just a bludgeoning like some people are thinking.
Peter, I'm going to bring up something ugly. No, we're not gotcha media, but there's a happy question after this. There's a lot of stories coming out of LSU, a lot of off-the-field stuff. Mm-hmm. Being an LSU grad, how concerned are you about it, and what do you know?
Well, it's a great question, and I don't know a lot because everybody that I've tried to talk to right now has been kind of in game mode, and I've done some research on it, and it's very troubling. I mean, if you read kind of the allegations that are out there, and the one thing that I've learned over the last couple of years is I remember previous to getting into media, when I would see a report that comes out, I would automatically just go one way and think a certain way, or vice versa. I would go think the other way. And what I do is I let these things play out a little bit more to where more stuff gets vetted before I could weigh in. So I'd love to be able to tell you more about it, but I really don't, because I think it's not fair for us to not fully 100% understand what's going on and pontificate upon that. But with that being said, any of those allegations at any sort, I mean, listen, it's a no-brainer. You can't have that stuff going around your program, and it's cast a really dark cloud around LSU football. And don't even take the wins and losses of this year. I mean, if there's some,
we're having some
I think
audio issues on his end.
He's going to jump back here any second.
Yeah. Peter, you there?
Yeah,
there
I'm
he
there.
is.
You guys,
You're good.
sorry about that.
You're okay. You're okay.
I'm too long of winded answers for me, but ultimately, I think this is a year where LSU needs to look deep down in a bunch of different ways. What's happening off the field, and that's going to be 10 times more important to make sure you got the right culture at LSU, because it doesn't matter if you win. If you're not doing it the right way, that's not going to last long, and nor should it. So, hopefully we'll find out more information about it here fairly soon.
Now, here's the fun question that I like to follow it up with. I don't want to end on a negative one. Last time you were on the show, we asked about a Steve Spurrier story. You told us a great golf story. This time around, I'm going to ask you about Coach Eddie O. Give us an Eddie O story that you just absolutely love telling about Coach O.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one that comes to mind is whenever they won the national championship, and then afterwards they're trying to have the big parade in Baton Rouge. So I'm there for SEC Network. I'm going to just ask Burrow and Ogeron some questions afterwards. So I'm kind of milling around before the parade, and Ogeron sees me just kind of by his head float with just him, his wife at the time, the athletic director Scott Woodward, and all of a sudden he goes, "Hey man, we got, I know I'm not doing my Ed Ogeron voice, but he goes, hey, we got plenty of room basically on this float. Why don't you come up with us?" So I got to sit on the back of the float as they went down in Baton Rouge near Tiger Stadium, and it was one of the most surreal experiences that I've ever seen. So, but again, so that's a fun part. But again, I'm glad you did bring up what's going on with LSU, and because I think that's something that administration, everybody needs to take a real deep dive into right now, and I hope that they do get that figured out there down in Louisiana soon.
And finally, for me, can you kind of break down the game this weekend between the Dogs and the Dogs?
Well, the Dogs are going to win. That's what I know for sure.
Yes.
And
That's weak.
joke.
That's weak.
I know it's such a dad joke, but this is an interesting game to me because I don't even think Mississippi State's going to have enough fit. I think they're holding on, right? They're hoping to have at least 53 players, and I think they're going to have below that. I mean, I think it's Georgia's get right game, and I think this game ultimately is going to come down to JT Daniels is probably going to upset Dog fans. What I mean by that is I think JT Daniels is going to have some success against Mississippi State's defense just because they've had enough opt-outs and guys transferring out that I think Dog fans are going to be like, well, where was this? Where was this all season long about JT Daniels? So I think it's just a matter of Georgia being so damn deep that they could just throw big-time recruit after big-time recruit, wave upon wave, to where I would love to see these teams full strength with a spring practice, with everybody ready to go. And unfortunately, we're not going to see that. But I'm just happy for any kind of football that we get right now, Stingray.
Peter, two quick questions for you before we let you go. I was listening to a Mississippi State podcast earlier today, and I was a little bit shocked when I heard it. They talked about that Kirby Smart says that they're going to play zone. And, of course, everyone's been rushing 3 and dropping 8 and playing zone. Georgia's going to play man against Mississippi State. And I was like, why in the world would Kirby play man with the easy recipe on a beat-up, low-down Mississippi State team right now is to just drop 8 and play zone? Did that shock you hearing that news?
No, because that's Kirby Smart probably saying that he is going to play zone. He just wanted in the media that he's going to play man, and for no other reason against Mike Leach and their offense, something different to game plan for. So, I mean, that is one of the things that I think Kirby and those guys are good at is second half adjustments. I mean, you go back and look at the Tennessee game earlier this year, is they made some adjustments in their secondary and their stunts up front, which made a big difference. And Georgia's been good in the second half. So I think the rest of this year for Georgia is kind of almost they're trying to figure out what they have and what they need going forward. And so for them, I think they do want to play man to see how they match up against Osiris Mitchell and some of these other wide receivers just to figure out, all right, what can this guy do and cannot do? Because I guarantee you he wouldn't be trying to do that against Florida right now or any other team. I think they feel like they got the numbers to do that. And I think it's a little gamesmanship on behalf of Kirby just saying, here's what I'm going to do, but probably going to end up doing something different.
My last question before we let you go, you mentioned it earlier, your Coach O voice. We all have a Coach O voice. I want to hear yours.
Oh, gosh, I can't. You know what? It's so funny. I just Go Tigers is the only thing I think of at the end, and it's such a bad way. But it is interesting about the Ogeron thing is that, when we first started, so here's a quick story. When we first started at SEC Network and Ogeron took over, everybody had their Ogeron voice, and we all kind of made fun of it and stuff like that. And LSU kind of got in touch with us, and they said, "Hey, listen, let's knock off the O voice." And we're like, "Really? What's going on?" And I thought it was kind of stupid that they even asked. But then at the end of the day, somebody pulled me aside at LSU and go, "Listen, like, we're trying to build a program here, and we think this team can win a title. And the last thing we're doing is not some cartoon character. We're a team that we think that has a good enough possibility to go out and win." And so it almost belittles the program when you're trying to make fun of a coach, and especially me being a Cajun myself. And I kind of understood that a little bit more, and rightfully so. Now we know they ended up going up and catching fire in 2020 and winning the title. So, there's not a whole lot of, if you notice, the amount of Coach O impersonations in college football has definitely taken a downtick over the last year, to say the least.
I just thought of one final question for you. Outside of the SEC, what game most intrigues you this weekend in the top 25?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a doubt it's Indiana, Ohio State, right?
Right.
Looking forward to played town job with the Hoosiers, and just to see, I mean, that's brutal for Georgia fans, because every week they see Justin Fields just lighting it up, their former quarterback. I think another one that I would have liked to seen is, the Pac-12 just gave a thumbs up, allowing them to play non-conference opponents if one of their games gets canceled. I would love to see Oregon and BYU play. And frankly, guys, I think both of them need it, because I don't think BYU is going to get in as kind of an independent, and I don't see Oregon doing enough in their 6-game schedule, 7 if they play in the Pac-12 championship, to impress someone with that schedule. So to me, if I'm Oregon, if a game gets canceled, I'm immediately calling BYU and go, "Hey, can we play? That way we can showcase good on good." And I think we as just college football fans would appreciate it, and I know both of those teams would like it, because it gives them a little bit more for the College Football Playoff Committee to talk about.
Absolutely. Well, Peter, thank you so much for your time. Before we let you go, is there anything that you would like to plug or give a shout out to?
No, man, just follow me on Twitter at Peter Burns ESPN, and I promise I'll be well shaved tomorrow whenever I'm hosting the games over on SEC Network. So I appreciate it. You guys do a great job. Always great questions, and I apologize about the stupid audio issues, man. Maybe I got to go pay my internet bill, I guess. Maybe that's the case. Yeah. So I need some of that Muschamp buyout money to make it happen. So
hey, before you do that shave tomorrow, what you gonna do for the rest of your Fun Friday with the 1 and 3-year-old?
Honestly, survive in advance. That's honestly that's all we try to do. It's actually a really nice day here in Charlotte, so I'm going to take the kids out for a nice walk and go enjoy it when they wake up from their naps. So
I got 4 kids, 11, 9, 4, and 2.
Ooh.
So I feel your pain, brother.
Oh, my man. No wonder why you want to do these things all the time. Just get you away from the kiddos for a couple hours. So thanks for the invite, boys.
Peter, thank you so much, and hopefully we can do it again soon. And one final thing, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Y'all have a blessed family, and hopefully everything stays nice and safe for everybody, including all your viewers, even you big Liberty fans that are out there as well too.
Yeah.
So, see you, boys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
All right, man. Well, that was two really good interviews with Dave Neal and Peter Burns. We want to thank both of them for joining us today.
Yeah, I was so shocked when he said Shane Beamer's name coming up for South Carolina. A little fun fact, Shane's wife, Emily, and I used to work together at WOBV in Starkville, my first television job. So I was real shocked when I heard that Shane's coming up. I still stay in touch somewhat with Emily on social media. So, I would love to see Shane Beamer back in the SEC. Right. And I think that would be fun to see Beamer ball kind of propped back up here in the Southeast.
That would be wonderful. All right, man. Well, are you ready to showcase a couple of the plays from last weekend that we weren't able to show the other day, I don't believe, and then we will get into the picks for this weekend.
I'm reading over my contract. Yeah, it says I have to do this. Yeah, okay, I'm ready.
All right. Well, the craziest play of the weekend this past weekend was from the Oregon State and Washington game.
Yeah, crazy play. You know, the returner on this. Well, I won't even say anymore. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But what a crazy block toward the end of this play. And I mean, you talk about an oh no moment. Why do we choose to kick it right into the guy? I have no idea. But I'm sure sheer panic had been set in for more than a few seconds when he made that decision. But here's the crazy thing. Watch the return guy here, Stephen. They're going to show the replay here from another angle, and the return guy for Oregon State, watch what he does. Look where he starts on this play, and look where he ends up, and look at the play that he ends up making. Let's see. It's going to bring it up right about here.
And Progressive actually gets a plug there on our show.
Yeah. He starts out almost to the end zone. Now he's made it to midfield. He is zigzagging, trying to make something happen. Look at this.
He comes down all the way down there, makes the block to get the guy in the end zone for a touchdown. And look at the hair.
That's just crazy. That's just crazy.
I had to show the hair, man. He was rocking that hairdo.
You know, my hair game, I got to step up a little bit, right?
All right. There's also 2 amazing catches from this past weekend. And, man, it seems like so long ago that we watched these games. But the number 1 catch from last weekend was actually the South Carolina Ole Miss game. Look at Shi Smith catch that football.
I still don't know how he did his body. The body control that he did and the concentration. And that's worth a flag. This catch is worth a flag. Look at that. I mean, he's twisted like a pretzel, one-handed, and still brings it down. Shi Smith all day long. You know, he's going to make an NFL team very happy. I don't know if he's going to be a first-rounder or not, but if he goes outside the first round, he is a steal in the draft.
And he needs a good quarterback, though, because none of the quarterbacks that they've had up there are anywhere near what he needs.
I won't knock Colin Hill. He's not the best quarterback in the world, but he's sure not the worst quarterback in the SEC, I'll tell you that.
All right, and the number 2 play, I'm sorry we did these backwards, but this one is actually from the Marshall Thundering Herd. And by the way, thank you for sharing that post on the Stingray Show Facebook page about the Marshall and Mississippi State thing the other day, Heath.
You know, that's a crazy story. I heard that story years ago when I was a student at Mississippi State, that the plane that went down and killed the Marshall team in that tragic accident 50 years ago, that plane was set for Mississippi State.
Yes.
And as soon as it dropped off Marshall, it was going to pick up Mississippi State in Baton Rouge after the game in LSU. And I posted that, as you said, on the Facebook page. You know, the players talked about they just waited and waited and waited on the plane. And, of course, you know, back then we don't have the communication that we do now. You couldn't look it up. There wasn't Wolfram on your phone, the app on your phone to track planes. And but nobody knew. Nobody knew anything. And then they finally figured out that their plane was the one that went down there in Huntington, West Virginia. A terrible story. But, you know, I don't know if you've seen the movie, We Are Marshall. Great movie.
Yes. Well, let me just go ahead and pop this up here. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, my fan club's up to 1 now.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
you know, I asked her, I said, hey, I want to wear a little color today on the show. I'm tired of these pastel color shirts I'm wearing. I said, what about this one? Then she yelled at me how dirty my closet was. Told me how to clean my closet up. So,
all right, man. Well, let's go on ahead and start picking some games for this weekend, as we have a full slate of games starting tonight with a pretty sneaky little matchup. Now, of course, Purdue is coming off the loss last weekend to Northwestern, going to Minneapolis to take on Minnesota tonight at 6:30 p.m. What are your thoughts about this game, Heath?
I just want to know if Northwestern's going to beat Purdue 2 weeks in a row.
Yes.
You know, Purdue, no one saw this coming. I don't even think Purdue fans saw this coming.
Right.
You know, so usually when a team's undefeated and things hit, and it hits hard sometimes. So, but Minnesota has not looked good.
No, it's been bad.
Yeah. So I think this goes into the Boilermakers' favor. So I'm going to roll with Purdue. Hey, what's going on with Indiana football this year? Purdue, Notre Dame, the Hoosiers. I mean, that's like the epicenter of college football right now.
Yes, and I want to give a shout out to my friend Greg Flugar, who is a Minnesota Golden Gopher through and through. I'm sorry, buddy, but I got to go with Purdue on this one. This game is on the Big Ten Network tonight at 6:30 p.m. If anybody is interested in watching a little Big Ten football down here in the South. All right, next up is going to be the monumental game in the Big Ten tomorrow, and it features two undefeated football teams. It is an 11 a.m. on a Fox Big Noon Saturday to start off your day of college football. It is 4-0 Indiana going to Columbus to take on number 3 Ohio State, who is 3-0. It is Ohio State is a 20.5-point favorite, and Ohio State is a 90% chance, according to the Football Power Index, to win this game. I'm actually going to pull the trigger. I'm going Indiana and Tom Allen pull the upset.
Whoa, Steven.
Because I actually did hear a little bit of interesting news. The only suspect position that has not been tested yet at Ohio State is their pass defense. And, you know, the Indiana Hoosiers have a lot of skilled players on the outside. So that will be a something to look forward to tomorrow. But I think Indiana finds a way to get it done. I think when we talk on Tuesday, they will be sitting there at 5-0.
Wow. Did you sleep in your Superman pajamas last night? That's a brave pick, young man. That's very brave, Steven. You know what?
I don't know why I'm doing it. I just kind of feel like Indiana is the feel-good story that we all need for 2020, and I think for some reason they get it done.
You know what, Steven? My neighbor in San Diego, my brief time that I lived in San Diego, graduated from Ohio State. He's a vet now. He's Dr. Jeff Fink. He sometimes watches this show, but I got a feeling that Justin Fields is going to make a highlight reel. But you know what? I'm going to go with you, Steven. It's 2020. We need some feel-good stories. Enough of Christmas parades being canceled. Let's go with the underdog. Let's go with the Hoosiers.
Yes, and man, I tell you what, how big would that be for the Big Ten to knock out Ohio State right now and get some new blood going towards the top of that conference?
My mic on? I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's go with the Hoosiers. It's a feel-good story. Let's ride the feel-good till it runs out on us, right?
Yes. All right, next up is going to be a sleeper, kind of a game tomorrow, but it is the SEC. We're in the South. So I figured that I would go on ahead and call predict this game, but you're going to laugh when you look at this. It is going to be Florida at Vandy. Man, I got to tell you what, as good as Florida is, their defense is still a little bit suspect because, obviously they gave up a bunch of points to Arkansas. I think Florida wins, but I think Vandy could score some points on this Florida defense.
Yeah, historically, Florida has always struggled with Vanderbilt, but they always won. It was a struggle win. We saw it a million times during the Spurrier years, during the Zook years. Even Urban Meyer struggled a little bit with James Franklin time to time. We've seen it. Will Muschamp. We've seen this a million times. I think Dan Mullen could tell Kyle Trask to throw left-handed tomorrow.
Yes.
It wouldn't matter.
Right.
I like Florida.
I do too.
Should I drop my coin phrase?
No, but I will say this though. Like I said, earlier, I think Vandy can actually get some more momentum going towards that Tennessee game because I feel like Vandy can exploit some things on that Florida defense tomorrow. So they're currently a 31-point underdog. I don't know if they actually cover the 31 though.
Yeah, that one's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if Dan Mullen had it more than 31
Right.
by halftime.
Yeah.
I'll say this: I don't want to beat up on Vanderbilt. There's no reason to. Everyone else has.
Because their offense has come together just a
Yes,
little
it
bit
has.
the past few weekends. It's just that they've gotten too far in a hole to work themselves out of it. Like at Kentucky, they were down, 38-14 and fought all the way back and just ran out of time. And then the weekend before that in Starkville, they were down 17-0 and then worked their way back too, but then the time ran out.
Yeah, Vanderbilt has shown signs of improvement. Kevin Seals has done nothing but grow as a quarterback in the SEC. I like Kevin Seals. I like his future. I like his future in the SEC. At the same time, we saw Jay Cutler do the same thing years ago. He grew as a quarterback. He looked good. He grew.
Yes.
The wins never really came. So, with that being said, it's going to be a long day for Vanderbilt tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I'm agreeing with you. Vanderbilt's put some things together. They're starting to look better. And yes, Vanderbilt has a chance to win against Tennessee, just not Florida.
Yeah. All right. Next up is going to be a game that I'm actually going to tune in and watch because I've not watched either one of these teams. But this is a sneaky good little matchup. It is Appalachian State, 6-1 at number 15, Coastal Carolina. And we're actually going to find out how good Coastal really is. 11 a.m. on ESPN2. Coastal is only a 5-point favorite, and the FPI only gives them a 59% chance to win this game. I'm actually going to start here, and I'm actually pulling the trigger again on App State pulling the upset here.
Wow. Stephen, you just must hate the Chanticleers.
No.
I like App State. I've always been a fan of App State. Boone, North Carolina is a fun place. There's even a little sandwich shop up there in Boone, McAdoo's, that I used to go to traveling. That was ages ago. But I do like App State. I will not be shocked if the Chanticleers find a way to win, but which is just a fancy name for chicken for us here in the South, Chanticleers.
Right.
But I do like App State. I don't know how good of a game it will be, but it could be the best game on TV tomorrow. We'll find out.
So, all right, like I said, I'm going App State in that one. All right, next up, going back to the SEC, 11 a.m. on the SEC Network. We really didn't talk with Peter about this one. We talked about the team and Coach O, but we didn't ask him about this game. It is LSU 2-3 at 3-4 Arkansas. LSU is a 2-point favorite, and the Football Power Index gives LSU a 69% chance to win this game.
One of my SEC football podcasts I was listening to yesterday talked about this game and they even mentioned that Arkansas was favored. So I don't know if the line is flipped or what. I'll say this. LSU is starting to put things together, but so is Arkansas.
Yes.
So this game is going to be a good game. Can it be a blowout for either side? Yes. Could it be a close game? Yes. This game used to be so much fun to watch back during the Houston Nutt, Les Miles days because, Houston Nutt was taking Arkansas to the SEC championship some. Les Miles was building and maintaining the program that that Nick Saban left him.
Right.
So that used to be a classic game. I think tomorrow the classic game kind of comes back. I think we're going to have a great game that we all enjoy and watch for the big golden boot. That thing's huge, man.
Yeah.
That takes like 2 players to carry. I would take like 5 or 6 of us, but 2 players who work out all year, 2 O linemen, they can carry that thing. I'm going with the feel-good story. I'm going with SEC Coach of the Year, Semi Pittman, and the Razorbacks. Woo pig.
Well, you want me to give my pick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, pig, suey, Arkansas Razorbacks.
I knew it. You were wearing a red shirt. You gave it away.
Yep. All right, so that's going to be a sneaky good little matchup right there. All right, now, who would have thought this, Heath? This game right here that we're about to pick is actually going to be for first place in the Big Ten West. It is 2-0 Wisconsin at Northwestern, who is 4-0.
Wow. This game is going to be it's going to be interesting, to say the least. I like Wisconsin. kind of running away with this, but we've seen this in the SEC over the years. A team that starts stringing together some wins, they start playing above their head.
Yes.
And when it becomes a close game, they find ways to win. You know, some people call it the Mo, some people call it mojo, some people call it momentum. Whatever you call it, Northwestern seems to have it this year. But I think Wisconsin's going to win.
I'm actually going with Northwestern and the win there. And Wisconsin's a 7.5-point favorite, and the FPI gives Wisconsin an 86% chance to win. But I'm actually going with Northwestern.
Wow.
That would be that. I mean, can you imagine if we got to the Big Ten championship game and it was Indiana Northwestern?
I would watch it. I would make it a bet. I make a whole day of just invite the neighbors over for. Oh, hang on, I can't do that. Right, I'm not going there.
Right.
But I would cook out. I'd grill out. I would make a big deal out of that game. We would make a big deal in this show about the game.
Yes, we would. All right, next up is going to be a horrible story out of Penn State that we talked about earlier this during the show. This is going to be Iowa 2-2 at Penn State, who is 0-4 now. This is 2:30 Big Ten Network. Iowa is a 2.5-point favorite, and Iowa has a 56% chance to win this game. Who would have thought in 2020 that Iowa was actually favored over Penn State?
Stephen, I don't like talking about off-the-field issues. People get tired of hearing that stuff. People watch us about sports. When we watch sports, we want to see sports. Forgive me for the next 15 seconds. Iowa has a lot of the issues off the field dealing with race allegations. Penn State has a lot of issues off the field with sexual allegations against its own players in the locker room right now. There's a lot of craziness going on between these two schools. Now getting back to sports, talking to you earlier today when we were texting this morning, I was like, well, this is the reason why Penn State's been losing a lot of games. You know,
no accountability.
Yeah, there's no accountability going on. As we talked on the Dan and Joe show earlier this week, we talked about that. If you didn't get to see that, the Dan and Joe show, me and Steven were their guests, and we had fun talking about college football, but there's no accountability. And when it gets exposed, it shines a light on a lot of things. And that's what we were seeing right now at LSU. Things are being exposed. That's what we saw at Florida State a couple of years ago. That's what we saw at Baylor a couple of years ago. That's what we saw at Penn State years ago. There's no accountability. It's getting exposed, and when it does, the program sinks. The school stinks. Well, sinks too.
Yes.
But, yeah, with that being said, getting back to football, man, I would lean toward Iowa, but, I mean, this is just a garbage game. It's a toilet. Let's call it the toilet bowl. Let's just flush it. You know, I mean, I don't really care about this game. I don't care about either one of these schools. I hate that they're having problems off the field, but you created it yourself. I don't care.
I'm going with Iowa.
There you go.
So I think Penn State goes to 0-5.
Wow.
That's insane, right?
James Franklin might take that Open Liberty job next year, right?
All right, next up, we're moving to the Pac-12, and it is actually the first time that Chip Kelly, in his tenure there at UCLA, has been 500. They are now going up to Oregon to take on the Ducks, who are 2-0. This game is at 2:30 on ESPN2. Oregon is a 13.5-point favorite, and Oregon has a 71% chance to win this game. Sorry, Chip Kelly. Sorry, UCLA. I'm going with the Quack Quack Ducks.
You know, I just got a feeling about UCLA. I think they're starting to put some things together. I think Chip Kelly is finally starting – his program is finally starting to mesh with these players.
Yes.
And it's a little overdue. I don't know if I believe in Oregon just yet. Oregon has kind of been untested a little bit, in my opinion. So I'd like to see what happens in this game tomorrow. But
yeah,
do I think Oregon's going to win it? Yeah, I do. But I got a sneaky suspicion UCLA might be victorious at the end of the day on this one. I'm still going with the Ducks.
All right. Well, next up is going to be another huge spread, almost as much as the Vandy versus Florida game was. However, I think that this team covers and possibly exceeds it tomorrow. It is right here in Tuscaloosa. Number 1 Alabama, after being off for 2 weeks because of the bye week plus the postponement of the LSU game, they take on a 3-4 Kentucky football team. Yes, Kentucky has a decent defense, but their offense will not move the ball on Alabama. I've got Roll Tide rolling all over Kentucky in this game, and I think Alabama exceeds the 30-point win.
We talk about Kentucky being the Jekyll and Hyde team of the SEC. It doesn't matter. They both can show up tomorrow. It won't matter. This is Alabama. This is Alabama all day long.
Yeah.
Should I drop the coin phrase, Stephen?
You can now.
If Kentucky doesn't win the coin toss, they're not going to win anything all day. Roll Tide.
I agree with that. All right, next up is going to be a Big 12 game. And we've actually kind of just forgotten about the Big 12 a little bit here because we've, Oklahoma State pretty much, Oklahoma State pretty much was out of it after they lost to Texas. But this game is actually going to be a pretty sneaky good little game. It is going to be Kansas State 4-3 at number 17 Iowa State. And Iowa State has only lost 2 games, so they're definitely still in the hunt for the Big 12 championship game. I'm rolling with the Cyclones here in this game.
Yeah, glad to have you back, Stephen. You sound like the Predator again there for a second with your audio, but you're back. This is going to be a fun game tomorrow. I think this will be one of the better games on television. I don't know if Iowa State can hang on or not. K-State is a good team.
Yeah.
They're kind of like Kentucky, though. They're a little inconsistent. I'd like to think K-State could win this game, but you know what? Iowa State's been kind of rolling. I'm going to go with the Cyclones over the Wildcats.
And like I said, I apologize about my audio issues.
That's all right.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Absolutely. You're fine, brother.
No, I was making fun of that commercial. I was making fun of that. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right, next up is going to be, now we talked about this game with Peter and it being a must-win for Jeremy Pruitt. Tennessee, 3-4 at 4-2 Auburn. Man, I'm telling you what, just between us, this could potentially be Jeremy Pruitt's, Jarrett Garantano's signature win in his tenure there. What do you think about that?
This game's the least exciting game tomorrow for me.
But now, if Tennessee wins, wouldn't that be the biggest win for Garantano?
Maybe. Um, you know, they had a lot of good wins last year, especially on that streak and maybe their bowl game last year.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, they were at the Gator Bowl. But
yes,
this Auburn team, every SEC fan thinks that Auburn did lose to Arkansas. We know about the spike. No one sides with Auburn in that argument. Everyone sides with Arkansas. And also the Ole Miss Auburn game. I mean, that was clearly a bad call. Ole Miss should have won that game. So I don't have any confidence in Auburn. I will say that they're getting better. Bo Nix is getting better as a quarterback. And, when we had Cole Kubrick on the show earlier this year, he shared that great stat that everyone keeps talking about now. When Auburn's at home, Bo Nix has these incredible stats, and when they're on the road, he's terrible. So with that alone, I'm going to go with Bo Nix and the Tigers tomorrow.
But see, that's why I said, because you threw that stat out there, that's why I'm saying that could be a signature win for Garantano if they can pick it up.
If fans butts, candies and nuts.
Yep, that's right.
Would be every day.
I'm going with War Eagle just because they're at home. If they were on the road up at Rocky Top, I would actually go Tennessee in that one.
All right.
Now, are you ready to go bye-bye? Because we are about to talk about your alma mater right now.
Oh, man. Are you talking about the North Point Trojans? No. Man. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, all right. I'm turning the floor over to you first because it is your alma mater and your football team.
Mississippi State and Georgia tomorrow.
Yes.
I have all the faith in Mike Leach. I do. But right now, the transfer portal, COVID, players opting out, the purge, which is famously known with Mississippi State fans now, has just taken a heavy toll on Mississippi State. Yep. This might be the very last game we see of the Bulldogs here in 2020. I hope it's not. I hope that the Egg Bowl continues. I hope the Egg Bowl's being played, although I don't think the Egg Bowl might go in our favor this year.
Right.
I think the game needs to be played. It's one of the great traditions of college football. It's one of the longest running college football games, and I would just hate to see it get canceled out over this craziness called COVID. With that being said, tomorrow, I think Mississippi State has success early in the game. I think they move the ball early in the game, and then I think Georgia is going to run them off the field. I am a huge believer in Mike Leach. I am a huge believer in the air raid. I absolutely think it will work in the SEC. And as we mentioned on the Dan and Joe show earlier this week, you got receivers at Mississippi State that cannot start at any other SEC school.
Right.
You got an offensive line that has not figured anything out. You got 5 linemen that cannot block 3 guys on the defensive line. 5 versus 3, you should win every time, and they're not, and they haven't won yet. It's ugly right now. You got a true freshman quarterback. You got receivers who can't start any other SEC school, and you got 5 linemen that can't block 3. That's a recipe for a complete meltdown. Georgia's going to win this game. Georgia's going to win this game easy. It's going to be ugly. With that being said, I am a firm believer in what Mike Leach is doing. I am a firm believer of what the Bulldogs are building. I am a firm believer that a year from now, State fans are going to be laughing and laughing a lot.
All right. Well, I think this game is going to be a lot closer than people think because of one side of the ball for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. You and I have talked about it. Their defense.
Yeah, Zach Arnett's amazing.
Yes, I think he can actually keep them in this football game.
I hope so. You bring in a guy like JT Daniels, who is a little gingerly.
Yeah.
He's been banged up for a long time. He hasn't started a game. He's going to come into this game, and Zach Arnett's going to have his way with him. Zach Arnett has had his way with every quarterback so far this season.
Right.
So Zach Arnett and his defense will have his way with Georgia. Like I said, I think Mississippi State might jump out to a lead early in this game. I really do. I would not be shocked if it's 14-0 at one point in this game. And then I think Georgia figures things out and they start blowing them off the ball on both sides. So,
man, can you just let's just throw this out there? Can you imagine what fire would be under Kirby Smart if they were to lose to Mississippi State?
Man, I have not thought about that, Stephen.
What
if
it
would break the internet?
What if Likely pulled off another LSU?
It would be a great press conference afterwards and all week long.
Yeah.
And Stephen, let's have fun with this. Let's take it a step further. Let's just say Mississippi State upsets Georgia tomorrow, which I don't believe. But let's just, for the fun of it, let's say it happens. And it's like LSU was the first game of the season. And State's throwing for 600-plus yards of offense, and it's just out of control. And they have almost 700 yards of offense on the day. And the rest of the season gets canceled. Mississippi State starts the season with almost a 700-yard performance and ends the season with an almost 700-yard performance. Mississippi State fans will be out of control, losing their mind, happy all Christmas, all winter holidays, up until spring practice, up to the beginning of next year. It would be insane. That would be one of the greatest things that could happen to anyone that's ever touched a cowbell.
Yep.
I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think it is.
Right. All right. Well, I like the Georgia Bulldogs, too, in that matchup. All right. Next up is going to be a huge, huge game. We went from talking about a not so fun matchup to this one might actually be a fun matchup. But, dude, I've got to tell you, I have watched this team try and have athlete after athlete after athlete, and they still cannot get over the hump. This is one of those teams to where I'm going to actually have to see it to believe it. It is Oklahoma State going to Oklahoma for their annual Bedlam matchup. Man, I want to go Okie State so bad. I want to go guns up for McGundy so bad. But, dude, like I said, not going to do it until I see it. I'm not going to believe Okie State can do it until I see it. You know, the year that they had the transfer quarterback that was like almost 30 years old, that year, Oklahoma State did not beat Oklahoma.
What was that guy's name? Wheaton? Was that him?
Brandon Wheaton.
Yeah.
They couldn't even beat Oklahoma. They had Justin Blackman. They couldn't even beat Oklahoma. Let me tell you, Oklahoma, until I see it, I'm never going to pick them, and I'm never going to believe it.
Well, Oklahoma's already laid some eggs this year. It looks like they have bounced back from that because they laid those eggs early in the season.
Right.
But if you look at the history of this matchup, Mr. Mullet himself, he has done very well against the Sooners. So I don't know if Oklahoma State does this tomorrow. I don't know if the Cowboys do it, but I got a sneaky suspicion the Cowboys are going to come out victorious tomorrow there in Norman, Oklahoma. I think the boss will be crying after the game. I like Oklahoma State.
Okay. Well, we'll see about that. All right, now we're getting to the meat and potatoes of a wonderful, wonderful football game tomorrow. It is actually going to be no TV for this one, which sucks for a lot of people, but I will try to find it tomorrow night to watch. It is going to be another ACC school hosting number 21 Liberty.
To all of our Liberty Flame fans that have been watching, have already sent messages into the show and everything else, NC State can beat you. They will beat you if you slack up a little bit. But I just got a feeling that the players, the fans, and everybody else have been a little distracted by the South Carolina firing of Will Muschamp and all the talk of Hugh Freeze going to Liberty. That name has been mentioned more than any other name of going to South Carolina is Hugh Freeze. I think that plays a distraction tomorrow. I think this game is going to be scary, scary close. I don't know who's going to have the ball last, but whoever does, I think wins this game. I like Liberty. I want Liberty to win. I want Liberty to stay undefeated. I want Liberty to spoil anything and everything they can in college football this year. I hope they run the table. I am scared to death for the Flames in this game tomorrow, and it's not because of NC State, although NC State is a good team. They're a very good team. I'm just worried about the distractions off the field with Hugh Freeze's name being mentioned for the South Carolina job. I am scared to death. I'm going to go with the Flames. I'm going to pick the Flames, but I am worried that everyone is panicking up there on the mountain. As Coach Freeze told us, everybody up there on the mountain is panicking. Hold on, Liberty. Malik Willis or for Heisman. We gotta keep that going.
So you're going with who?
I'm going with Liberty, man.
But even though you said you're scared and you like NC State, come on, man.
I like NC State. I like NC State's team. NC State has they're not a great team, but they're a really good team.
Yes.
NC State can embarrass you. If they get up on you, they can embarrass you. I'm just worried that Liberty has been distracted off the field all week with coaching rumors. That's what I think.
Red, baby. I'm going red. I'm going Rise with Us. I'm going Liberty and Coach Hugh Freeze going to 9-0 and getting the sweep of the 3 ACC teams that they have faced.
Hey, hashtag Malik Willis for Heisman, right?
Yes, man. That would be so awesome for them. All right, next up is going to be a pretty good little SEC matchup. And this one is actually going to be on the SEC Network alternate channel for some reason. It is going to be 2-3 Missouri at South Carolina.
Yeah. South Carolina had a couple of players opt out this week. I think you'll see some new energy out of South Carolina early in the game, and then I think it will fade. I like Missouri making a lot of noise in this game. I like Missouri really pulling away in the second half of this game. I think Missouri wins by more than 2 scores when it's all said and done. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a blowout. Missouri
is favored by 6, and they have an 56% chance to win. I'm going MIZ.
ZOU. I see you, Anthony.
Yep.
Anthony Best typing into the show. Yeah, I think Missouri's going to win this game. I think South Carolina's going to jump out early. I think South Carolina might pull in some trick plays early, but I don't think on the defensive side of the ball they'll have anything figured out. The only thing that would hold Missouri back is injuries, key injuries to either the quarterback or the running back. I just think that could be a terrible situation, but that's a freak accident waiting to happen. I don't see that happening. I just like Missouri, and I like Missouri pulling away. I think I would not be shocked if Missouri wins this game by more than 25 points. Won't be shocked at all.
All right, and our final game of the weekend is going to be, go ahead and say it, my friend.
No, take it over, Stephen.
Mr. Khaki Pants. They are going to Greg Schiano and the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. And I've got to tell you what, if they cannot beat Rutgers, as bad as that program has been over the past few years, I guarantee you we will have him a new coach at Michigan by Monday morning.
I do not see that happening. Even if Michigan loses, I don't see that happening. I think Rutgers is in a sneaky situation here. Shiano will have them playing over their heads, but I do think Rutgers might put up a fight early. Michigan might put it all together tomorrow and really start making things happening. I would like to see Michigan kind of put some things together. Maybe stomp on Ohio State toward the end of the year. I don't see that happening. But I do like to see that Michigan – I do think that Michigan will start putting things together, and they start building from here on out, and they finish the season strong. But I wouldn't be shocked if they're trailing after the first quarter in this one.
Not so fast, my friend. I've actually forgot my pencil, but I'm actually going Rutgers. I've watched Michigan in the highlights over the past few weeks. They looked absolutely horrible against Wisconsin. I'm going with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights beating them.
Wow. Look at you. Stephen, you're wearing your Chuck Norris pajamas underneath that red shirt, aren't you?
No, not at all.
So, but you do have Chuck Norris pajamas. You didn't deny that.
No, I don't.
No, I don't know. For some reason, Jim Harbaugh's too good of a coach, and I don't know what's going on up there. And I think that's why everyone keeps talking about it. Jim Harbaugh had huge, over-the-top success at every stop. He gets to Michigan, and it just falls apart, and I don't think anybody knows why. And if Jim Harbaugh leaves this year, goes to the NFL, goes somewhere else, whatever happens, I think he'll start having huge success again. I don't know what's going on at Michigan.
Sometimes college NFL coaches just do not pan out in college.
Yeah, but he panned out at University of San Diego. He panned out at Stanford. He panned out at other places. I'm wondering what it is with Michigan.
Yep. All right, man. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Stingray Show. Have you got any final thoughts before we send them off?
Yeah, I was noticing John Stringer's comment down here. John, I will not insult your intelligence. I don't think you're pretty stupid. Listen, the air raid's going to work in the SEC. It already has. Leach has a proven track record with the air raid. It's been proven for 19 years. Leach has said already, matter of fact, he said it after I believe the Arkansas game, or it might have been the A&M game this season. It was a home game. I remember that because I was there. He said that this is his worst offense ever.
Right.
Ever.
Yes.
You got linemen that can't block. You got receivers that can't run the routes right. They don't understand the offense. They're not getting open. They're dropping balls. Again, you cannot take any Mississippi State receiver off that team and put them on an SEC team where they start. Maybe Malik Heath starts maybe at Vanderbilt, maybe at Kentucky, but that's it. The rest of the receivers can't start anywhere.
Cyrus Mitchell, maybe.
I don't know. Cyrus has a lot of drops.
Right.
So, it's one of those things where you got guys that can't block, you got guys that can't catch, and then you have a true freshman quarterback out there, and your number one playmaker decide to opt out.
Yes.
So I just don't see where Mississippi State fans are just saying, oh, the air raid's not going to work. What position group is working at all in Stark Vegas?
Right.
None of them on offense. Not a single group. Not the running backs, not the quarterbacks, not the O-line, not the wide receivers, not the backups. Nothing is working. So don't be bashing the air raid because the personnel is not there. And if you listen to what people have said, John Cohen and other folks, Steve Robertson is one of those guys, and I highly hold Steve Regard in a very high regard when he talks about this, that John Cohen said it's going to take 2 years. When he asked how long is this going to take for the air raid to work here in Starkville, he said it's going to take at least 2 years before it gets going. So with that being said, yes, the air raid will work. It's just going to take time. You've got guys out there run blocking at receiver instead of catching the ball. You've got run blockers and road graders at offensive line and not pass protectors. You've got a true freshman quarterback. That's just a bad mix in the SEC always. And, your best player on offense opted out. What good is going to come out of that? The air raid will work. It's just not going to work with this team because he does not have the personnel to do it.
Well, with that being said, rant is over, right?
Yeah, I guess that's my first hot take. What are we, 16 episodes in?
Yeah, 16 today.
Wow, it took me 16 episodes to do a hot take. So
Man,
there you go.
Kudos to you. All right, man. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Stingray Show. We hope that you enjoy your college football tonight. Real quick, Heath, talk for just a second while I pull up the schedule here.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. My phone's blowing up. People are already calling me for my hot take. No, I'd like to do. I'd like to think about SEC football. We're getting toward the end of the season. This was a season that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yes,
and it looks like we're going to complete it. We may not get every single SEC game in. Mississippi State might have to cancel the season after this weekend, and I hope they don't.
Right.
But with that being said, we're surviving. We're making some things happen. And I really, really hope that basketball gets in. I am so looking forward to college baseball this year. I think college baseball will be the absolutest greatest season we have ever seen. There is so much way over the top talent in baseball this year, especially the SEC. And no, I did not talk about Anthony's wedding, but I would like to talk about Anthony's wedding. Anthony, congratulations. I'm so glad you got married, buddy. There you go. I was reading the comments there.
I got you. All right, man. Well, I hope you guys enjoy your college football. Now tonight, Syracuse, Louisville, 6 p.m. ESPN, Purdue, Minnesota on the Big Ten Network at 6:30, UMass, Florida Atlantic tonight at 7 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. And there is a late game, New Mexico at Air Force, 8:30 p.m. on Fox Sports South. To go on ahead and, or FS1, I should say, to start off your college football weekend. So without further ado, we are going to sign off on the Stingray Show. Enjoy your college football this weekend. Have a wonderful, blessed, and safe weekend, and we will see you back here next Tuesday only on the Stingray Show to preview Rivalry Weekend next week on the Stingray Show. God bless.
The Dogs and Stingray are coming for you.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn.
Worst defense ever!
So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes.
Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings, he's got it. Jennings, he's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee. They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium. Are you kidding me? My God almighty. What an epic way for the